Ex-smokers who successfully quit and have been smoke-free for years now. What did it? Doctor said I might have lung cancer. Quit January 18, 2011. I am 4 years smoke-free. I have a serious mouse phobia. So, when I decided I no longer wanted to smoke, I would force myself to look at pictures/videos of rodents. My brain quickly started associating smoking with mice. Till that in 1975, 20th Century Music Corp sued a restaurant owner for copyright infringement for playing a radio broadcast of 2 of their songs in his establishment, arguing it constituted an unremunerated performance. It reached the Supreme Court, which sided with the restaurant owner. I wonder why they targeted him. Or if they did it to others as well, but he fought it as far as he could. I'd love a link if you've got one. I work for a healthcare company that owns many practices and hospitals in the US, and not too long ago we needed to sign agreements with BMI and ASCAP, 2 performing artist organizations, for playing their music at our locations. Didn't matter if it came through the radio, Spotify, etc. We first dismissed the letters as we thought it was a scam, and now pay them an annual fee. I still don't get it. Voting eligible Americans who deliberately abstained in the 2024 general election, how are you feeling about your decision? All the actual answers downvoted at the bottom of the thread. Come on guys. You may not like them, but people click this to read what they had to say. They should be at the top. Voter turnout for this election was 58%, which is about on par with every presidential election. Around 40% of the country never cares about voting. I know several people who are in this 40%, and ask them why, and it basically always comes down to the fact that they think their vote doesn't matter. I kind of wish I did, but I don't regret that decision. I usually vote. But SHTF on my end. Dog got attacked, I spent the night at the animal emergency vet. Thieves broke into my place. Battery went out on the car. Lost a family member. I barely had enough bandwidth to take care of myself, let alone vote. Maybe someone better than I could have held it together, but I was tapped. Why is society so gross to young women? What's disturbing is that the sexualization starts very early. In terms of being preyed upon, a lot of young girls are often leered at by much older men. It's not uncommon. I was an average-looking kid. Nothing special. When I was much older, one of my older male cousins said he saw it happen often and said that he had to stay nearby to get them to stop. I was just a kid of about 11. I had no idea this was even happening. Worked at an elementary school and this old guy came up asking some basic questions, nothing that would raise red flags until he asked, "So any cute girls here?" I just stared at him and I guess he caught my disgust and left with no other words. I feel men like this just haven't really faced the consequences of treating women like that and then to go to places where it's accepted and even encouraged. What movie did you watch that traumatized you at a young age? E.T., the alien looked way too much like my grandma, which made me believe she was an alien for about 2 years. She was, but a different kind of alien. Deliverance. I was too young for that. The sexual abuse scene was a real eye-opener. And it was scary as shit. But it also launched my love of bluegrass music. Not a movie, but an episode of X-Files. It had this stretchy guy who ate people's livers. His eyes would change color before he did. He was killed by an escalator at the end, but that scared me straight for years. What's your opinion of the 50,501 protests happening right now? Everyone has the right to protest and should if they choose to. If I didn't use Reddit I wouldn't know it was even happening. There doesn't seem to be enough coverage of the protests. Didn't even know about it myself till a quick Google search. I think honestly, the only way I see it getting any sort of attention is something drastic happens that unanimously pisses people off and more people join. Haven't seen anything on my local news about it. Everyone has the right to peaceful protest under the First Amendment, Victory Hand. LPT How to get a human on customer service calls. I was trying to get through to FedEx earlier today about adding a unit number to a shipment and the auto prompts kept shutting me down. Next call I said your driver hit my car and boom, instant human. Saying I'm returning a call generally works too. Just hit the Spanish button. It's always a human in the US that is bilingual. Till in Japan, the yoheitsu, meaning evaporated people, choose to abandon their current lives, due to family strain, work pressure, or any other reason. So-called night moving companies help them disappear without a trace and start a new life somewhere else. And it only works because Japan has privacy laws with teeth. I wish this were a service in the US. I've helped do it in some TV situations and definitely would have paid someone to do it faster and more effectively. I need a new dust filter for my Hoover Max Extract Pressure Pro Model 60. In the 1800s and prior, this was known as walking 20 miles to the next town. What is a show you watched during your childhood that you are convinced nobody remembers? There was a show called Sagway, the Chinese Siamese cat, that I watched as a kid, and I feel like nobody remembers it. It was about a little Siamese cat in ancient China, and it had such a unique animation style and sweet stories. It aired on PBS, but I rarely hear anyone talk about it now. Maggie and the Ferocious Beast. Beetlejuice, people know the movies, but I never hear anyone talk about the cartoon. Lamb Chop. Heck, I barely remember LOL. Till Jefferson Davis attempted to patent a steam-operated propeller invented by his slave, Ben Montgomery. Davis was denied because he was not the true inventor. As president of the Confederacy, Davis signed a law that permitted the owner to apply to patent the invention of a slave. Wait, are you telling me Jefferson Davis was a huge piece of shit? But the Civil War wasn't about slaves. Today, if an employee invents something, the company gets the patent. Why are so many protests in the US taking place in the middle of the week instead of the weekend? If the protest is at a government building/office, that's when the lawmakers are there. The entire point of protests is to disrupt things. If you don't on a weekend when not much will be disrupted, you're not doing much of a protest. If you protest on the weekend, you are basically saying to those in power, hey, don't worry, no matter what happens, we will still keep working. Because it's not just a protest, it's a work stoppage. This is how you exert maximum force. You're given 1 million of whatever you last Googled. What is it? Postpartum hemorrhage symptoms. I thought I was fucked before. Now I am toast. Emperor penguins. Bow down to my mighty army of groin-pecking flightless tuxedo wobblers. 1,000,000 3-bedroom houses in the middle of the woods. LPT, when someone raises their voice, lower yours. It's a psychological power move. Had an old baseball coach that talked quietly when we were all surrounding him talking. It shut everyone up because they couldn't hear him. Was kinda genius. Anybody got a tip if I'm the voice raiser? If I'm worked up enough to raise my voice, even if the other person is maintaining their composure, I have trouble calming down. You're absolutely right, the most composed person holds the most power, as they can simply say to me, watch your tone, you are raising your voice right now. The best I've come up with is, postpone talking about whatever it was. I can't talk about this anymore right now without being worked up, and I'd like to calm down. When someone is having a rant or a tantrum, I like to let them just have it. I will stand there calmly and let them burn themselves out. When they are done, I will continue the conversation as if the whole thing never happened. It usually infuriates them and leads to another outburst, but I just repeat the process until they learn they can't control the situation by acting like a toddler. What's a dead giveaway? Someone grew up as an only child. If you cut a cake in two and they can't immediately tell you which one is the bigger half, they're great with other people's parents because they grew up chatting to adults. As an only child, I'd say the struggle with conflict is either all or nothing, because the only daily conflict you witness is your parents, and they can often go under the radar with minor conflicts, so you're only exposed to major disagreements and think all disagreements go like that. Whereas people with siblings know when to fight or just get over stuff. They leave their Halloween candy in the kitchen. As an only child, I get unreasonably angry about group punishments for someone else's fuck up. Everyone I knew that had siblings was so nonchalant about it, but I'm like, I didn't do shit, why the hell am I being punished? Like and subscribe.